one learns this language. It's it's such a weird language. English is, especially American English, it's such a mix of so many other languages. So my hat's off to anyone who has had to learn English. It's amazing to me. But I know what you're saying about questions or lab challenges that are not stated well, to where you clearly understand what is being asked for. That has always been a complaint, I think. Going back, into the mid 90s when I took it, there were questions around, well, what do they really want here? And I don't like those kind of questions where they're sort of intentionally trying to trip you up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's hard for anybody, but especially if you don't really understand the language. I think one of the things Cisco should be doing, and there's no reason they couldn't, as large as the company is now and as worldwide as the company is have all of the exams in multiple languages. And maybe they do that. I'm not really sure, but
this year I took a couple of exams, and the only options they have is English and Japanese.
Yeah, that's ridiculous for a company the size of Cisco to not, because that's it should be an easy thing. They've got offices in every major city, anywhere in the world, and so you should be able to get any exam for any certification in, Spanish or Mandarin or, Russian or whatever language. That's just a criticism on my part. It's amazing to me that they don't do that. But the bigger thing is what you said about open book exams. I could not agree more with that. Part of it is the time constraint, that even if you were to have an open book, you're only going to be doing it on places where you really kind of just can't remember, some command or something, and that becomes useful. But but to be able to, like you said, test real understanding, and not just how fast can you type a configuration. I think that's so much more valuable to the certification than it is now. Yeah, so I agree with you there.
Thanks. So one thing, going back again, I mean, I'm trying to make this interview as much ordered as I can, but now that we talk about the certifications, I think it's appropriate to talk about the technology. And you talk about how you went on the previous versions of the CCIE, and you went through a lot, you see a lot of technologies. So back in the day, you saw things like frame relay, and then you saw things like MPLS, and now we're working on SD-WAN. So, you're labbing and studying in one technology, and then you go to another one, and then you go to another one. So yeah. What will be for you like the most aggressive change, or from one technology to another? I mean, the one that take the most aggressive changes that you've seen from one, or the ones that you foresee in the future, like this is gonna be huge.
Yeah. Gosh, as far as the most aggressive change, I think it's aggressive just in that it's not just a technology like, I mentioned earlier, nobody can really read the whole Cisco manual anymore. I very much agree with how they broke things up from it's not just a CCIE anymore. Now you've got service provider, and you've got data center, and you've got enterprise, because there's more specialties there, and there's so much within each one of those that it makes sense to have specializations. But It's some of the other specializations that have cropped up. For me, a big change was just security. I don't know that much about network security. I can harden a router and all that, but I'm not a security specialist at all, and so that's like that would be very challenging for me, and something very different from just you understand a lot of different networking technologies, and there's things that overlap from service provider to data center and to enterprise. Security, that's almost an entirely different animal. But then even beyond that, was it DevNet now? It's really interesting. And very much a departure from really even networking.
Okay, so based on that train of thought, what should be the technologies that we should start letting go, start not focusing that much, and those technologies that we should approach and see more in our near future?
Can you repeat that question?
I'm sorry. For instance, which technology should we start letting go? Like for instance, RIP, and what technologies should we start looking up more to learn and to deploy and implement in the near future?
Yeah, I really can't think of any technology currently that I could say you should let this go. I mean, a few years ago, I would probably say frame relay and ATM or, dying technologies. But, I don't know if they even, I think those are pretty much off of the exam now. I think it's more going toward what you're going to encounter, and what are new things that you're going to start seeing on exams, and because you're going to start encountering those in your career. And I think I even mentioned earlier, automation, programmability, DevOps, software development, techniques, all of that. I think programming, not programmability, but programming, all I think are things that you should at least, even if you're not going to specialize in that, you should at least understand.
All right, I lost you for like a minute. There was maybe something on my end. Let me just I lost you like for like 30 seconds. So can you repeat like the last minute, please?
Yeah, the connection is, it might be my end. You're sort of freezing up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually, well, it seems okay on my end, but I mean, it's okay. Let's move on. That's technology.
Yeah. Welcome to the internet.
All right. So, well, basically, what you just said is just paying more attention to SDN and SD1 and programmability and automation, Python, and all the new trends that are going on that we need to focus on because that's the new thing.
I think if you follow trade magazines, Network World and Information Week and things like that, they're going to be talking about new and up and coming technologies well before those technologies wind up in certification exams. And I think that's probably the best way one of the best ways to really keep an eye on where the industry is going. The other way, if you can do it, is to attend attend technology forums, whether it's the network operators groups or even IETF or things like that, and not so much for the presentations, but simply for the conversations that you get with other people that are there. You've got this whole group of people that you share a common interest with. And just those hallway conversations can tell you so much about, what are they dealing with in their jobs, what are they thinking about in terms of next steps, and it really will help you get a perspective on, on where the industry is going.
Yeah, totally true. So just one thing, we've been talking a lot about the technology and the challenges of technology, but have you, in your experience, have you seen like the human, what features the human or the human factor brings to the table that makes the operation or a project less smooth in your experience? I try to make myself as clear as possible, like on a job, on your office, and we all know by definition technology is challenging, it's difficult, but when what is a human what human factor makes more difficult a project in technology?
With projects in general, and I've spent so much of my career as a consultant working for primarily service providers. Like I said, my getting involved in data centers has been maybe over the last 10 years or so. But I think more than anything else, what is a huge challenge with a project is lack of executive buy-in. When you go as a consultant, and this would work for anybody working at that company too, if you try to undertake a large challenging project and your executives are not completely behind it and they don't understand the business benefits of why you're doing that project, it can make things so much more difficult. If you have engineers and architects who are involved in the project but are skeptical about it because it's something new, and those kind of people really drive me crazy. Well, this is different from how we've always done it this way. Why are you doing it this way now? And sometimes that can be fun, just convincing them of why we're doing it this way and getting them on your side. It's one of those consultant soft skills of getting the engineers in a company on your side. But if you can't, just because they don't really understand it, and they keep wanting to do things the old way, that is a formula for disaster. If there's not enough funding, it's a formula for disaster. That you've got executive buy-in, but you've got this really tight budget, and you better not exceed that budget. And how projects are, they almost always overrun a budget. That can be a problem. So those are, off the top of my head, those are the human factors that I've encountered over and over the years.
Okay, so there was one thing that you mentioned that actually resonates a lot of me. That you mentioned the people should avoid the burnout. And as you also mentioned, it's easier said than done, especially now, and how fast everything is going. So, in your experience, what are your thoughts about like the burnout syndrome, and even something more delicate as the imposter syndrome? I don't know if you have dealt with in your peers, seeing on your peers or something like that.
I deal with that, the imposter syndrome, is something that I deal with in myself all the time. where basically you are afraid that you don't know as much as you think you do. This is, am I getting that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
I think almost every meeting I've ever been in across my career, if I don't know the people, and again, this is as a consultant, you go in with, customer engineers and all that, I always assume that everybody else in the room is smarter than I am. And it takes a while. I mean, sometimes it turns out that they are, but it also takes a while for me to start realizing, oh, the more this guy talks, the more I realize maybe he doesn't know as much as he thinks he does. And so it causes me to be a very quiet person in meetings, because I'm assuming everybody else really knows what they're talking about. And I don't really know what the secret is behind that, other than just continuing to listen and offer my opinion where I can, but yeah, I deal with it just in myself all the time.
I think we all do. It's something that we all do. I don't know why I'm not a psychologist by any mean, but something that came up on my head is that even though, like for instance, even though you meet up someone that is smarter, that doesn't define the value that you have. So even though,
Yeah.
so that's what I wanted to like. The deal, how do you approach it? Is like being more quiet, being more receptive.
Yeah, being quiet, being receptive, listening, asking questions, I think is a big part. Don't be afraid if sometimes someone will say something and make you think that they're smarter than you are, but the reason you don't understand what they're saying is because they don't really understand what they're saying. And sometimes just not having an ego and just saying, can you explain that to me better? I didn't understand what you meant there. And sometimes that just leads into a better conversation, a better discussion. There's also a part that different people understand things different ways. Some people are very verbal learners. Some people are visual learners. I'm a visual learner. And it seems like young people especially tend to be more verbal. And so there's times when I'll sit in a meeting with a couple of young engineers and they're talking and obviously understanding each other, and I'm not getting it. And my question will always be, wait, can we go to the whiteboard and draw a picture? And as soon as I see a picture, it's like, now I get it. Now I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And people just understand differently, and sometimes it's important to acknowledge that.
Yeah, in my case, for instance, I recently saw your video collection from Cisco Press or BGP from
Oh, yeah,
2014, I guess it is. And it's great. It's awesome because you see pretty much all the topics from the enterprise perspective, from the EBGP, from IBGP, and confederation, and all that. And it's clear because you said it. It's you have all your explanation, and you have the commands. You have the actual commands and the actual show commands. That makes more sense to me. And I can do them, like I have my GNS3 on my laptop and I can do them myself. So that is the way that I approach when I'm learning some new technology. And yeah, I just like a couple of weeks actually that I revisited that.
Oh, good. Thank you. I was wondering if anybody still uses that. I'd like to go back and do a new edition of that video series at some point. I love BGP, and the more I work with it, the more I find things that I didn't explain in that course or in my book on BGP and all of that. Would love to do that again. But yeah, for me, it's just you know, I just, whether it's a book or whether it's one of those video series, it's just trying to explain things the way I understand them, you know, and the way I would want somebody to explain it to me, and hoping that it works for other people.
Yeah, that I think that's the most honest approach, because that's the way that you can say, at least I tried.
Yeah, yeah.
And have you worked with people in Latin America, or have you worked in projects in Latin America?
A few. I haven't been in Latin America that much. Mostly in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with on a couple of different projects in Sao Paulo with Brazil Telecom. Where I've been in Rio a couple of times, in Brasilia. I've worked in Argentina a couple of times, and Mexico City once.
Oh, really? Do you like
And
it?
yeah. I was only in Mexico City for I think a day.
Really?
And,
Oh,
and yeah, I'd love to have a chance to go back and, you know, and see the city more.
I will highly encourage to go to Mexico City. I'm from a place that's called Monterrey. That's one of the major cities. We had like three major cities. That will be Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey. And either place, you're gonna love them.
Yeah, well, I'm a food person.
You're gonna love them, definitely.
Yeah, Mexico City especially is, you know, one of the great food destinations of the world, and
Yeah.
so I'd love to go back sometime and just get to eat my way across the city.
Yeah, give yourself a chance. Definitely do. Once all this thing is over, you should definitely do. So, and how was working with the people, with the engineers in Latin America?
Great. Um, I I'm not sure. I was trying to think if there's any difference. I mean, I've you know, worked in, oh gosh, how many countries? 26 countries, I think, the last time I counted, that I've worked in, and I love almost everywhere I've ever been. You know, just because of the differences in culture, and, you know, and different. I mentioned food. You know, the differences in food, and you know, and just whatever history is there. So there's all of that, but you know, so I've enjoyed working with people from Latin America for that reason too. Just, you know, yet another other cultures, and
Nice.
something new to learn.
So, is there what are the things that you enjoy to do that is not related to technology? How you spend your free time?
Um, you know, I've been a skier for most of my life. The last few years, I've gotten too fat and out of shape, and I haven't skied. But I need to get back into shape and get back on the slopes, because I mean, I live in Colorado,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, it's it's an hour drive to get to the, you know, to just beautiful ski areas that people travel from all over the world to visit. And it's kind of ridiculous for me to not be up there. But I love to ski. I mentioned that I'm a history buff. I spend a lot of time reading and studying history when I'm not working. I'm an opera buff. I love opera. Um, and beyond that, I think just spending time with my grandkids. That's probably the major thing I do when I'm not working.
Awesome. So, is there anything for you after visiting 26 countries and writing books that's been to read from anyone, like the go-to books, and giving consultation and being like the gurus on networking? Is there anything else for you to accomplish? Like, there's something on your bucket list to do, or at least professionally speaking?
Professionally, I think I'm doing it right now. You know, working with intent-based networking is different enough from anything I've done in the past, that you know, I'm still at my age. I'm 67, and you know, I've always wanted to keep learning new things, and adding to what I know, and so I'm very definitely doing that right now. You know, with this, it's something different. They hired me for what I know, you know, which is you know, I mentioned that I work with reference designs. It's from my end, it's, you know, here's how different configurations should work, and all of that with these different operating systems and all of that, and then our software coders encode that into the product, and so I'm sort of approaching everything backwards. You know, they're using me for what I know, but I'm learning so much from them, on the other hand. So there's that. You know, outside of networking, but consistent with writing, I'm writing a novel right now. It's something
Really?
I've
What's
wanted
about?
yeah. Oh, it's just a historical novel. Who knows whether I'll ever finish it, um, I've all my life wanted to write a novel, and maybe a little bit of, you know, the fact that that routing TCP/IP came as such a surprise. You know, it just sort of fell in my lap. Maybe writing something fictional will turn out the same way.
Let's see how that goes. I really look forward to see that novel. So, any final words or advice or anything that you want to say to the people in Latin America that are listening and watching this podcast?
Oh, I would just say, you know, as far as professional advice, is just find something that you're passionate about. You know, obviously we're all networkers here, you know, but there's so many aspects, you know, and you know, examine, you know, where the industry is going, and you know, make sure that you're always curious, always wanting to learn new things, but go after areas that you're passionate about. You know, if you love security, go there. You know, if you love automation, you know, chase that. Uh, you know, it makes your career so much more fun when you're just having fun doing your career.
Definitely. So, I have no words, but thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I know yesterday
Thank
was a holiday, and
yeah,
as soon as I have this ready, I'm gonna upload it on my social media. I will share it to you so you can share it anywhere else. And thank you everyone for being on this episode of Technology Rants. My name is Mario Salinas, Technology MX, and remember to save your configuration and have a good day. Just gonna stop the recording right now.